Crap, dogs are barking. I'm really worried. She might wake up. That's the way it's going. Okay. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. It's working now. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to another wonderful episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions for Saturday, August 6th. Is it August 6th? Yeah. 2016. I am your host, Adam Mickelson. I hope everybody is doing well. It's been a busy week for me. In fact, I'm getting ready to go on vacation literally the next day. And by vacation, I mean spend my vacation in a 5-day coma and then come back and get back to work. So that's just been the way things are going. I hope everybody else is having an awesome weekend. And, of course, I am not alone. I am being joined by my usual wonderful panel of fellow geeks, fellow YouTubers, fellow critics, and fellow opinionated people. And let's go ahead and start things off with the one guy that can't seem to show up that often, but we still love him anyway, Aldo Gomez.
Well, that's how you're going to introduce it.
What was that?
I said, that's how you're going to introduce it. Just kidding.
No, Aldo, we love you.
No, clearly. I'm just kidding.
How you doing, Aldo?
Doing good.
All right, good. Good. And in fact, before we get started on the stories, I did promise a few listeners that we were going to do this, but we'll get to that in a second. We also have Alex the Shadow Blazer with us. Alex, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing well, pretty well. Just a nice, relaxed, lazy Saturday.
Which we don't get to have that often, believe it or not. It doesn't really work out at times. And also we are being joined by Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah of Romney's Reviews From the Shelf. Romney, how you doing tonight?
Well, doing pretty good. I mean, for some reason this has just been my week of getting into Facebook arguments with people, so, well...
You too, huh?
Well, and it's not about the things you think I get into arguments with, but not even necessarily politics. Let's just say... Yeah, things like people should never bring up to me is naturopathy, New Age healing. Basically, there's a whole list. Just, I'm a skeptic, people, so if it's anything that requires, like faith, healing, and stuff like that, don't bring it up to me. It's only going to lead to 20 minutes of pain.
Okay. And, of course, we're being joined by a wonderful live chat. How are you guys doing on their chat? Not too many have gotten in just yet, but I have a feeling we'll be having plenty more very soon. And like I said, we've been missing Aldo for the last couple of weeks, so much so that listeners have actually wanted his input on some of the stories that we did cover. So if you guys don't mind, we're going to do a lightning round with Aldo. I wish I had a sound effect for it. Lightning round with Aldo. So first of all, I just so happen to know this, and I think you actually put this out on your Twitter too, that you got your hands on the Batman v Superman Ultimate Cut.
Yes.
And since we actually did say in our review that we would take a look into it, I unfortunately haven't. I'm just curious, or people are just curious, Aldo, how do you feel about the extra, I think it was like 30 minutes of footage that was added?
Yeah. I feel exactly the same as I did before, except now it takes like 25 more minutes for me to get to the good part, where people punch each other in the face.
That's kind of what I was worried about. It was going to be 30 more minutes of build-up.
I want to say it helps the plot, but the plot was already a piece of crap. They literally just took like corn chunks out, and that's it. It's still crap.
Wonderful. Okay, so the next story that people wanted to know your opinion on, which we were able to cover, and I think you even suggested for it, but you were not able to make it, and that was the Hideaki Anno coming out and apologizing that Eva 4.0 isn't out yet, and saying that it is going to come soon. He just needed to go work on Godzilla Resurgence before that could happen.
I don't think the man needs to apologize. I really don't, and I feel honestly his fans should be aware that this wasn't going to happen immediately. No. So I don't think he needed to apologize.
Yeah, but I'll at least say, it's a good faith effort that he did, and he did explain his case fairly well, because I haven't seen like an actual interview, but I've read his quotes. He has said it's really hard for me to work on Ava, and so Godzilla provided a wonderful opportunity to get my head out of it so that I could come back at Ava 4.0 fresh.
I mean, that's fine if you wanted to explain it. I just don't think it needed to be an apology. Honestly, I waited so long for 3, for the production of 3, then for the Blu-ray release of 3. I waited so long for that. I was expecting to have children by the time 4 came out.
What people haven't realized is, and I don't know if Alex is as far into fandom as you are, Aldo, but I can honestly say, Aldo, if there is a die-hard Anno fan on the podcast, it is Aldo.
I am
maybe a close second being Alex.
I try to not be an Anno apologist, but sometimes it happens. It's just I'm also one of those people that's like, did you see 3? It's worth it. like I'm one of those people that's like, people are like, I wouldn't wait 8 years for a movie, and I'd be like, did you watch 3.3? That was worth it. But that's just me, though. I don't think it's actually worth it now that I have it at instant access. But I don't know, man. I love Otto. I would hug the man if I wasn't so sure he would stab me.
That would be a downside, I would think. Now, another story that actually got brought to our attention, and I tried to bring it into an agenda, but I couldn't make it work. But I'll admit, as soon as I saw the listener email on this, I was with my wife, and we both kind of sat there and went, "Oh." And that is the Disney Infinity servers are shutting down as of March 2017.
A little sooner than expected, but expected nonetheless.
But I know that a listener reached out and said, "Oh, poor Aldo. He's got to be like super sad right now."
Yes and no. Yeah, I'm sad. It sucks to see such a big franchise, such a big thing lose so much support from such a corporate giant so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, well, it's weird. I don't know. It's kind of expected. I've seen other MMOs. I mean, you and me have brought up the DC MOBA that lost support fairly quickly, didn't it? It caved really quick when they decided to fail project.
It lasted like 3 months after its official release.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's one of those things where I expected it. Me personally, as a consumer of the game, it's not that bad. All my stuff is local. I don't really do a whole lot of the online stuff.
Okay.
But honestly,
so
though,
is that gonna still be able to work without the servers?
Yeah. It'll still work. The thing that does suck the most, or kind of the thing that's the worst about this whole thing is all the people that bought their characters digitally, all the people that have put money into digitally, all that money is essentially gone. And I mean, even if the PS4 version or like the console versions were to be rendered completely useless, you at least still have a physical figure to use. People that bought everything exclusively through the digital store are totally shafted.
Yeah, that absolutely would suck.
Yeah.
Because it ain't there no more. That's one of those things that people have to get used to with having these online marketplaces now on the consoles, is that eventually these things will die out, and it sucks, but it's a fact of life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And considering that it ran mostly off of the servers, you don't even have an offline option to back up your PC game or anything like that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I kind of want worked out, but I don't know if it actually will be in any manageable way.
No, these decisions have been made months and months and months ago. There's no hope for it at this point.
Yep. All right. Well, that's pretty much the lightning round, and I appreciate that so many listeners are actually interested when Aldo comes in and actually want to know his opinions on specific things that they know he loves. So thank you guys so much for bringing that up and showing your support to Aldo. But let's go ahead and get into the stories this evening, because we have quite a bit to go into, one of which actually I completely forgot about, and it makes the agenda. So people might have noticed that a certain movie that's in the DC universe just barely came out. Its reviews came out a week earlier because they do the international releases before they do the I believe it's the European releases before they do US or
Sometimes.
North America. And so at that point, we already have some reviews in for Suicide Squad. They weren't good, and as usual, the internet didn't take it well at all.
Nope.
So much so that, and I'm actually bringing up the story right now, there was an active petition to take down, was it Rotten Tomatoes?
Yep,
Or
Rotten
was it like-
Tomatoes.
Okay, it was Rotten Tomatoes to take down Rotten Tomatoes because of the Suicide Squad reviews that were already coming out.
Yep.
Now,
Yep, that's a thing.
it's one of those things where people might bring to my attention, well, did Alex bring this petition to your attention? Technically, yes, he did.
I did not. You
Actually,
brought
it
it
was-
to my attention.
It was actually Aldo
No.
who brought it to our attention
No,
this time,
Aldo
I
did.
think.
Aldo did. So yeah, we have a legit petition, or we have a petition because it's got over 16,000 signatures and hopes to reach 25,000 to shut down Rotten Tomatoes. How successful do you think you're going to be, guys?
I mean, even if
Actually,
you
it
did,
was.
I mean, you can be successful and reach a petition goal. That doesn't mean it's going to do anything.
Nope.
Wait, so it was successful? So Rotten Tomatoes was shut down?
No. They
No,
reached
he's
the
saying
number
that
of
he's
signatures.
saying that you could reach the number of signatures, but that doesn't mean the company has to do a damn thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Honestly, Warner Brothers, the company that owns Rotten Tomatoes and Suicide Squad, whoa, honestly, they're not. They're gonna look at this petition and go like,
Yeah, again, one of the favorite comments I saw, and it was on the link that Aldo shared on Facebook, a friend of ours literally comments like, you know what would fix the bad reviews? A good movie.
mm-hmm.
yep.
Pretty much. And so I need to clarify something really quick. We're talking about the story here, people. We're not doing a review of Suicide Squad. We're actually going to hold off a week for people to be able to go see it, and by then we can actually talk spoilers, which I actually think, after seeing it, we probably need to do, because I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those 50-50s with the panel, and therefore probably being able to speak spoilers would help that process along.
Yeah, that
So
is unless the DC fanboys try to kill us.
Well, they already wanted to kill us for Batman v Superman, so
There you
I,
go.
I don't know what to tell them there.
It wasn't good then, and it ultimately wasn't good.
I see what you did there. Ultimate cut.
Well, in the words of Gimli, let them come. By the thousands, let them come.
Exactly. So, I mean, my opinion on the whole deal is, congratulations, you tried to have a petition. I could have told you that would have failed. I actually completely forgot that, yeah, Warner Brothers owns Rotten Tomatoes. Yes, they're going to take down their own website because of their own movie. That's totally going to happen. No, it's
Yeah,
not,
it did.
people.
Yeah, guess what, people? That didn't pay out for Fox with Fan Force Sticks, so yeah.
No. And I think somebody actually did tell me that there was something, like a petition trying to start for Batman v Superman to take down the negative reviews for that, too. Like, seriously, Internet, negative reviews are going to happen.
If the film is crap, there's nothing you can do to change that.
Even if the film is gold, you're going to still have one guy who doesn't like it. You know, that's going to be one thing that happens. I mean, for crying out loud, when I think it was Interstellar, when me and Alex reviewed Interstellar, we both liked it. We both thought it was a nice homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey. At least that was our viewpoint on the matter. And we didn't get this on that channel. I got this big stink mail on how much they hated it, and the reason that they went to go see it was because they saw our vlog. And because we praised it up and down. And he's like, this was absolutely horrible! You guys did such false advertising for it! It's like, guys, occasionally, even to a film that's going to be getting rave reviews, there's still going to be that one or two guys that have problems with it.
Yeah, I'm still dealing with flack from people pissed off about my review of Fury Road, where they're just like, oh, you probably weren't fit in your right mind. I'm just thinking, nope, I saw Fury Road, I didn't like it.
Dude, I'm still getting stuff for Ghostbusters. So it just happens. So final thoughts before we go into like the. I think Alex, have you actually given your opinion on the petition?
No, but it's stupid because it's just a petition, and this isn't really going to take care of Rotten Tomatoes. And two, why are you taking Rotten Tomatoes that seriously? Anyway, it's an aggregated score site, and this is also the same site that gave the new Ghostbusters a 73%, mostly
Much
by critics who
deserved.
are too scared to possibly tell the truth about the movie, and that may have some Sony shadiness going on behind the scenes.
Well, it's just one of those things that I kind of agree with the chat. Like, I think the whole thing with the DCA latest trying to take down Rotten Tomatoes over an effing score is pretty stupid. I don't care for Rotten Tomatoes, but still, and I'm kind of there too. I don't really care for Rotten Tomatoes. I don't go to see what they're thinking of movies. I occasionally go to Metacritic, but in a lot of cases, I kind of approach a movie from this angle. I don't ever usually agree with the critics. And so at that point, I go in with my own viewpoint. And if I just so happen to agree with critics, then great, that's fine. I agree with them.
Well, yeah. And I think we've all had movies where we've always been at odds with kind of the mass opinion, whether it's been stuff like Fury Road, Suicide Squad, Ghostbusters. I know that was the case for films like Drive. I was at odds with a lot of people about Drive, and it's just a fact of life, people.
Another one that actually comes to mind was I remember when we were still at Slick, and we did kind of like a little mock review of Maleficent, and I came out totally against it, and then we did those two other videos, like where Aldo and you tried to sell me on a different take on Maleficent, and people actually appreciated Aldo and Romney's take on it and thought I just wasn't giving them a chance.
Yeah,
Because I was just thoroughly convinced that it wasn't going to work.
But even though the whole thing was that we were basically, okay, let's come up with a much better ending than what we
Yeah.
got in Maleficent.
Yeah, so I was basically written off as like, and I think Maleficent was fairly popular at that point. Like a lot of people liked it. So
Yeah.
at that point, I was just the the naysayer that.
Yeah. And the sad part is the film was good. The film was decent until the ending. The ending is where it literally just shoots itself in the knee.
I think about a third of the way into it just starts.
It goes downhill.
Well, the thing is, like the middle parts where we actually see Maleficent, where we see Aurora growing up and Maleficent like interacting with her, those are really good. But then just like
Except for the part where it's not Maleficent, because anyways.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say here, people, is that, look, I can like a movie, and Aldo can dislike a movie, or Romney can be kind of 50-50 in there. But that's the thing, is that when you have communities like Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes or stuff like that, yeah, Rotten Tomatoes is going to be mostly negative, at least from my perspective. But you're always going to have, if it's a good movie, there's going to be a lot of good critiques, and then there may be a couple of mixed, and then there's going to be this tiny little thread of people that didn't like it.
yeah.
It's just going to happen.
Yeah, please keep in mind how Rotten Tomatoes works, for those who don't know what an aggregation website is, that it takes reviews from major newspapers, major websites. It actually pulls reviews written by like professional film critics who do this thing for a living, and it basically compiles all the various scores that the reviewers give to come up with an average rating. And that's how that website works.
Well, Metacritic runs on the same kind of
Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes, they basically both do the same exact thing. And so taking down a website that is literally pulling from other sources, well, guess what? The negative reviews are still going to be there. You're not going to change a damn thing.
Yep. And I know one listener actually came out to me and said, well, something along the lines of, we've said before in the past that we think that critics, more mainstream critics, are way too negative in this day and age. And I still agree with that concept. I think I always think it's easier to write a negative review than it is to write a positive one. But in some cases, we've come across films, especially this year, where they've been in the right for that.
Yeah. Plus, keep in mind, Doug Walker, I think, kind of put it best, where while the average movie-going public may see a movie like once or twice a month, you've got critics that are basically seeing up to like 3 or 4 films a week, and so naturally they kind of got a wider range of base of comparison to pull from, and naturally there's a lot of things that could sway someone's opinions, whether it's like whether they like the director, whether they like the source material, whether they had lunch before going to see the movie. I kid you not that that's something that can even sway their opinion. It's just that, well, critics have a lot more factors in their brain going into a movie than the average moviegoer, which is why there's often such a disparity between critical opinions and the opinions of the public.
Yep. So I think we've pretty much hammered the subject into the ground, and we have other stories that I would like to get to tonight. So once again, I want to reiterate, we did cover the story. We're not reviewing Suicide Squad right now. That's going to happen next week, so you guys can enjoy that when we come back, and our entire panel will have seen it, and we can give our opinions on Suicide Squad and whether or not it is a movie to be excited about or whether or not it shouldn't have been done at all. So with that, let's go ahead and start up with the stories that we have tonight. And this first one, well, let's just be honest. The tech portion of this evening is going to be driving our Prozac budget back up because it's been kind of a depressing week for tech. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, again, resonating with Alex, but also with me. So people will notice we followed a game called Galaxy in Turmoil, which was basically a Star Wars Battlefront kind of successor, and by that I mean Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2, the way that it used to be, not this EA Battlefront that's out. And so we were following Galaxy in Turmoil to see if they can pull it off. But I think Alex and me, as well as Aldo and Romney on occasion, came out and said it's only a matter of time before the true empire of our world, EA, comes in and shuts them down. That since has happened. So the first story that we actually covered was that they'd already threatened legal force to squash the company that was going to be doing it, and then we did get a follow-up story a little bit later on Polygon that was basically saying, no, it's shut down.
We never reported there had been legal force because there hadn't been any. We had reported that they were working with Steam to release it.
No, that's what I meant to say. Is like earlier in the week we found out about the legal force, and then I want to say like a day or two later, that's when the shutdown stories started coming in from Lucasfilm saying the Galaxy in Turmoil has been shut down. And so I'm still fairly sad about this because I wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to see if maybe Galaxy in Turmoil could do what this Battlefront can't and won't do. But unfortunately, yeah, EA wasn't going to let this go through. They really weren't. Especially if it was successful, then it would, this indie game would be showing up their game. I really do think that would have been the problem that we've had. Alex, your thoughts on Galaxy in Turmoil officially shut down, and I think it's Frontwire Studios that was developing it. Their project is shut down.
I mean, sorry, before Alex gives us 2 cents, I think it's fair to say it's not shut down. I think the Star Wars side of it is shut down. The actual game is still going to be released, minus Star Wars assets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so basically, okay, I thought that they had shut down the game entirely, so then at that point...
No, because they can't shut down the code that they developed on their own.
So if they get rid of the Star Wars assets, then they can still technically release it.
It's not an if, it's a when.
It's a when. Yeah. If they want this game out at all, it's what they'll have to do, which, oddly enough, is kind of the same reason why we ended up with Mass Effect, because BioWare's like, hey, we like this sci-fi stuff, we want to do our own world, so who knows, maybe we'll have a popular indie space shooter come out of this.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to clear that up.
Alex,
fine. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, it is no surprise that I could see it coming a mile away that EA was eventually going to throw the ban hammer on this and say, no, you can't do this. You'll actually make our game look bad by comparison. Maybe because it is EA. Maybe because you put no effort behind it.
Because the truth hurts.
Yes, that's exactly. In fact, that is exactly what they said. They really were afraid of a little competition here. It's really kind of sad because maybe not quite to this extent, but I know before the whole sellout to Disney, it was, Lucasfilm was pretty okay and lenient when it came to fan-made content, but naturally now that we got bigwigs like EA and Disney running the show, that's probably going to be the end of that for the most part.
Yeah,
Which you're basically saying they've become the literal empire.
Yeah. At the same time, though, to kind of play devil's advocate here, EA paid a lot of money to license Lucasfilm properties from Disney, and so naturally it's in their best interest to try to basically stop any projects that could undermine that because, well, it was a lot of money they had to shell out in order for permission to basically make Star Wars games, and so it's very much... Yeah, it's very much a legal thing where it's in their legal right. They paid a lot of money. Yeah, it sucks, but sadly...
And to be fair, Disney isn't being an empire dick here because Disney did, and as well as was it Ironforge or whatever they were, Frontwire. Frontwire and Disney both have come out and said that they did try to negotiate with EA, but EA wouldn't let it. So this is one of the few instances when Disney was actually on the side of the little guy trying to figure out some sort of deal.
Yeah, that was one part of the story that actually kind of shocked me, is Disney was actually willing to come to the negotiating table.
Yeah, so I don't think it's quite fair to call Disney the literal empire this time around.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't calling Disney the empire.
I
was calling
So would that make EA kind of the Admiral Thrawn of this whole arrangement?
Who the Admiral Thrawn? Disney?
EA.
No, I want to go with EA being the... crap, what's his name? From episode 4. Grand Moff Tarkin. He's the Grand Moff Tarkin. Evacuate? In our moment of triumph? I think you seriously underestimate our abilities. That's what I want to come out of this, but it is still very sad. I wanted this to happen. However, I would actually very much encourage Frontwire Studios to recreate assets, because I really do like. At the same time, I want Galaxy in Turmoil to come out.
Well, they can't necessarily recreate assets because that would be stealing.
Well,
no. I mean,
basically reskinning and basically removing all references. So yeah, they would be recreating assets. They would just mean repurposing would probably be the word you're looking for, Adam. Is repurposing.
Sorry,
Yes.
Create their own assets. Get this game out, because I would really love to be able to get my hands on it.
It's funny that you keep saying I encourage them to do this. I hope they would do this, Alex. No, sorry, Adam. That's what they're doing. They are doing this. They're gonna keep going.
Wow, Alex, I think Aldo has a problem with you.
Sorry, I usually focus on Alex because we all tend to talk over him.
No, I want that to happen. I want this game to come out because I think
going to happen.
He can do it.
You don't have to want it. It's gonna happen.
It's going to happen. Yes. I like that concept. So
yeah. Tell us how you really feel, Aldo.
It doesn't matter. It's gonna happen.
Wow, it's almost like 6 months of frustration is being let out by Aldo tonight. It's like, damn it, Adam! Why don't you say things properly? Why don't you speak proper? Why don't you speak English? I don't know.
Speak gooder.
There you go. When it comes to speaking, get good. All right, so any other thoughts that we want to convey on Galaxy in Turmoil before we move on? Because there really isn't a whole lot to add into this aside from...
Yeah. Can't wait to see what they actually come out with when they reappropriate the game for more original uses.
Who knows? Maybe like in the holidays, like 2 or 3 years from now, Alex, you and me will just be sitting on the couch playing Galaxy in Turmoil.
Well, I mean, for all we know, they could even repurpose it using some public domain ideas. Maybe I'm sure there's probably some public domain sci-fi they could pull from to kind of. I'm not sure if Buck Rogers counts as technically in public domain because I know someone still has the rights, but that's the oldest sci-fi my brain is latching onto.
Would Flash technically count? No, I think Flash is owned.
Yeah.
Let's do
Flash
franchises that people who are not from the 80s remember.
Well, Buck Rogers is like Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon. I'm sure there's some other sci-fi stuff. I mean, my choice you could even do something like John Carter. Problem is the Burroughs estate is very, very tense to work with.
I know. Anyways.
Yeah. So okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next story we have, which is again fairly depressing because I don't like reporting on companies shutting down or companies having issues.
And it brings us right back to the topic of Ghostbusters.
Yes, it does. So the Ghostbusters developer. So a lot of people actually, I've come across people who didn't know that this game came out, and therefore didn't care.
Very bad marketing.
But the 2016 Ghostbusters, believe it or not, had a movie tie-in game, people, and the movie tie-in was horrible.
Well, actually, I don't think it was a movie tie-in. It was a separate thing, separate cast of characters.
Well, yeah, it was kind of a case of it was kind of sort of movie tie-in, kind of not in the event that people didn't like the movie.
They did try to tie in certain elements. I guess one of the characters is named Patty, in there, and then also we did have Engineer Girl, and I guess she's fairly similar to it.
I think it's
But I wouldn't call it tie-in necessarily.
it's as much of a tie-in as them re-releasing Ultimate Alliance or like a month after Civil War.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, isn't the game? One of you might know this, but isn't this game basically a remake of an earlier Ghostbusters game anyway?
I'd
I
heard
don't
that.
think so.
The one that got brought to my mind, or that got brought to me, was that it was a remake of the Wii Ghostbusters game that came out alongside the Terminal Reality PS3 360 ones. But to my knowledge, the Wii one had Peter, Egon, Ray, and Winston in it. So at that point, I don't know if this is necessarily a remake.
I don't think so. I think more for the most part they were trying to kind of copy a lot of the Lara Croft and Gauntlet games that have been coming out as of late.
Something like that. But as far as the remake, Alex, I can't confirm that. However, Fireforge Games, who made this game, and it's pretty much been panned all around, especially given the fact that it was 8 months in development and has tons of problems, according to a lot of the critics out there. And unfortunately, it was the last straw, or that was the straw that broke the camel's back over at Fireforge Games, because they have now filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Now, a lot of people have actually been reporting that it's Ghostbusters that has killed the company. Like, it's the only game they've ever worked on. That is not accurate. They have worked on other games, and the guess that I can make is that even with those other games, they have not made the best decisions financially. So much so that they pissed off investors to a point that they're just basically demanding money, and that's why they need the Chapter 7 bankruptcy. One in particular that gets brought up a lot was one of their titles, codenamed Zeus, which was due to be published by Razer. And they also had another game codenamed Atlas, which was being funded by the Chinese publisher Tencent, which we brought up earlier this year. And I guess they actually tried to use the funding from Tencent to fund Zeus and squandered the money, roughly, because their development didn't really yield any fruit, or at least a game from it. Just it stayed in development hell. So Fireforge... Ghostbusters isn't what killed it. Fireforge was already having a bunch of issues before that, which is sad to me because I didn't even know this, but Fireforge was actually founded by an ex-Blizzard employee, Tim Campbell. I don't know Tim Campbell, but I don't like to hear companies going down this way.
Obviously, there's a reason you don't know him.
Well, yeah, obviously. He's not working on it anymore.
No, well, I mean, anyways.
But it sounds to me like it isn't Ghostbusters that did this. Fireforge was already having a bunch of financial issues before this, and then Ghostbusters was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah,
roughly.
it's a sad reality for a lot of game companies where a lot of these things are make or break, and if you're not managing yourself properly, well, it can fall apart, like what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so it was just... It's frustrating to be able to report that, but it is kind of a grim reality, is that if, at the end of the day, we all like games being made, but on their end, they have to look at it from a business perspective. And if you don't have a business guy running things, or at least somebody who understands how to run things like a business, I mean, we give crap to the people or companies like Xbox that hire marketing guys as their CEOs. Well, there's a reason to be able to do that. You do need to have marketing guys in there.
That's why Nintendo hired Reggie, because Reggie's gonna start at like Pizza Hut, and now basically it works well because we've seen what happens when you have completely designer artist-driven companies. You end up with Daikatana.
Well, and Iwata-san even had some level of marketing experience when he was brought in. So at that point, when you have that balance, it works. And unfortunately, it seemed to me like you had the developing side of it, you had the creative side, but you didn't really have somebody saying, no, we actually need to spend this money this way. And unfortunately, that was the downfall. So, any other thoughts from Alex or Aldo on this situation?
No, it just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. But unfortunately, there really isn't too much to report on this one. I'm sorry for Fireforge Games. I really hope that we hear from people who were formerly of Fireforge working for bigger companies and maybe even getting a second chance to find their dream career. But Fireforge was already having a bunch of issues before the Ghostbusters game came out. Sorry, guys. And I do agree with the chat. The Xbox Terminal Reality Ghostbusters game was awesome. And in fact, I will find a way to do a Let's Play of that because it's awesome. So at that point, let's go ahead and move on into the next story, which is going to be a very big Nintendo talk. Mainly for one reason, but we'll get to that in a second. So the first little bit is we've already received more rumors of the NX. Yay! I'm having really hard times trying to smile for this now. So, according to sources, we now can be looking forward to. We can now be looking forward to 3 titles within the hopefully within the first year that the NX is launched, all of which are first party, and all are big titles. So, for first of all, Zelda. We already know Zelda's happening. They've said as much. Mario is also hinted to happen in the first year, a Mario title for the NX, and also a Pokemon title for the NX. Again, kind of lending credence to that whole rumor that this is a handheld console that docks up into a stronger unit to be able to run things on your TV, because it's Pokemon. But it is interesting that they're allowing for that. And I guess let's just go ahead and start there. I'm not necessarily surprised by that because it was going to happen.
Yeah.
We were going to. Congratulations, we were going to get first-party announcements.
So, just one thing. One of the big rumor mills is that dock doesn't actually give it more power. It just outputs the video to a TV. Sorry to bust streams.
What was that? It doesn't dock with a TV?
No, it does dock with a TV, but that's all it does. It doesn't give it any more processing power or anything.
Okay, so basically it's just a glorified charging station.
Yeah, that with TV connection.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was worried about too. Yeah, I wish I had more of an opinion on this, but yeah, first-party titles aren't what I'm worried about. I want to hear third-party announcements for this thing. And having a Mario game announced for this, not surprising. A Pokemon game's a little surprising.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, first-party titles. In other news, ducks go quack.
I would not be surprised if the Pokemon game was actually like just the NX version of Sun and Moon. Honestly, there's a very real possibility it could be just that.
I hate to say it, I'm kind of where you're at, although.
Yeah.
Like having an NX version of Sun and Moon makes sense.
Yeah, it just. I want to be excited for the NX, but I'm slowly unexciting myself from it.
You're not alone. I mean, I'm still disgruntled as someone who bought a Wii U.
I mean, no offense. I'm not trying to be rude. I don't really have that much sympathy in that aspect. Not because I don't have a Wii U, but because I kind of saw this coming from the very beginning. What with a lot of their consoles having like 3 or 5 year life.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought my Wii. I bought my Wii pretty early, actually. No, it was the.
I'm still a little disappointed though that it's. I really want the NX to be able to compete with PS4 and 3 and 1 when it comes to graphics.
I don't think it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Just given Nintendo's overall design philosophy of using more outdated technology to keep costs down, I don't think there's ever going to really be a time where they're going to compete with the major heavy graphic hitters like Sony and Microsoft. But at the same time, what's really going to decide it is not the power, it's how much software do they got and if they're actually going to play well with third parties this time around.
Yeah, that's really going to be the big thing here is that, I mean, we already know the first-party titles are going to be awesome, but we really do need to have them playing nice with the third parties and actually creating a dev kit that's workable with it. Because they need it. They need to have that third-party support really bad. I think it's hurt since the Wii that they haven't had that.
Even back in the days of the N64, it's hurt them because that's why the console was so starved for RPGs, because all the major RPG developers didn't want to deal with the N64 and the limited hardware, and thus they jumped ship to Sony.
Yeah, I can't remember where I actually read this story, but somebody actually made one of the biggest things that this new president of Nintendo is going to have to do, at least as far as the third parties are concerned, is show a lot more humility than Nintendo is used to showing in the last 10 years. And I kind of agree with that. I would actually dare say in the last 20 years. That this president actually needs to look at those third-party developers and show a little bit more humility instead of the tyrannical Nintendo that we've known for so many years.
This is where I turn into a Nintendo fanboy slash non-apologist. I don't think they need to do that. They have a strong. I mean, even though they rely like 80% on nostalgia, they have a really strong development team. They have really strong marketing. They have really marketing is debatable. They have really strong teams. I feel like they can be. Maybe they should be humble. I don't think so because they have a strong enough lineup that honestly, if the Wii U taught us anything, is that you can have a system survive on like 10 game releases of its lifetime.
Yeah, and one of the things that actually just got mentioned in the chat is actually a valid opinion. I can't see the NX going head-to-head with PS4 and Xbox One. They're fine by not doing that. I'm like literally 50-50 on that one because if they can work out the third-party issues, then that will work. But at this point, Nintendo needs to survive. And surviving would be to stay competitive.
Except they don't need to because they thrive. I mean, with the exception of their actual console releases, which they only ever go into the black or into the negative when they make consoles.
Terms in the red.
Oh yeah, in the red. Sorry, my bad. That's the only time they ever dip into the negatives because they do really well off of their games. I don't know how they sell millions of copies of games when they don't sell that many consoles. But they don't, and the merchandising alone, like they can survive off of Pokemon for 10 years. That's it, without needing to release anything. So I mean, technically, they don't need to stay competitive. That's kind of what gives them the freedom to do things like the Wii U or the Wii or.
And it's not so much that they don't need to be competitive; it's more that you really need to take a scope of which areas they are competitive in, and Nintendo has always chosen to be more competitive in terms of the software they offer rather than the specs because that's what pushes consoles. I mean, that's why I got the Wii U bundle with Smash Brothers because, oh, hey, it's Smash Brothers. And that's also why, like, oh, hey, Pokemon out for this new portable console, and everyone goes nuts.
Because honestly, if they were to go competitive, then why get a Wii U? Or why get an NX when you could just have a PC? Like, why have a PS4 when you can have a PC? Like, that's kind of my thing. That's why I like Nintendo, even if it's underpowered. That's why I like them doing their NX or the 3DS, because it's a unique experience that you can only get from this one company.
Yeah, and that's why I argue that they need to find a way to work with the third-party developers to create more unique experiences with these third-party titles that actually make buying the console worth it, rather than just straight-up ports, because, well, as we saw with the Wii, ports don't work too well, and, well, with the Wii U, doubly so.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree with that, is we really do need to fix this whole third-party issue, because, look, Nintendo, I have no problem with your first-party titles. Pretty much everything that comes out is gold as far as I'm concerned when it comes to first-party, at least the stuff that I've played.
Oh.
And so at that point, but I'm also talking as being an old-school NES fan, and I loved all the third-party support, and it's gone away over the years. And I can only imagine if you had a legit dev kit that third parties could work with, the magic that they could create, so to speak, with it. I'm not saying ports. Unique entries would be awesome, but if all you want to do is ports, then fine.
Yeah.
I find it interesting, though, that the chat has actually gone into a discussion of we need to imagine doing this show in the 1980s. I thought we already were.
It's basically, what if we were doing the show back in the 80s? And, well, to that all I had to say was, well, okay, then we'd be on public access TV at 4 in the morning.
Yes.
But I thought we already were.
I'm
old, so I mean, I immediately come into the assumption that it's always the 80s all the time.
Yeah. But yeah,
I'm a 90s kid, Adam.
Yeah. To get back to get back on point, I think we pretty much more or less hammered into the ground. It's like, yeah, these announcements are nice, but, well, we don't know a damn thing about the console, so getting us hyped up about stuff that's going to come out when we don't know what the heck we're going to be playing it on is not going to really go too far.
So we have another chat suggestion. Sega needs third parties to help the Genesis, or they
No,
brought up the Genesis in there, but
they're making jokes about us like broadcasting in the
like you guys would be
80s.
saying the Genesis is coming out. Technically, we'd be calling it the Mega Drive because that's what we called it before it was called the Genesis.
Of course,
I mean,
Of course, the big difference is that Sega actually had a F-ton of third-party support because, like, hey, we don't have to censor ourselves on the Nintendo, on the Nintendo consoles.
And
that's
we're
why
also not the tyrant.
Except Romney, we wouldn't know that because we'd be in the 80s and we would be like, Mortal Kombat's gonna come out on the Sega. Will it have blood? Who knows?
Well, yeah, but
I already could have told you it wasn't gonna have blood, but Sega would be the one to put in the blood code.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the present.
So, let's go ahead and get into the next bit of our Nintendo talk, which was big announcements for Pokemon Sun and Moon. So the one thing that in particular listeners wanted us to talk about was the regional variants that just got announced, which I'm guessing are basically being called Alola forms. So the ones that got shown off, I guess, were variations on Sandshrew, Sandslash, Vulpix, Ninetales. Executor looks really weird, but the variations are literally being called Alola Vulpix, Alola Sandshrew, and first of all, they wanted to get our opinions on that. And my opinion is that's dumb.
Stay creative, Dave Freak. Stay creative.
Here's my official statement. Alola Oi.
Yeah, Alola Oi. That's exactly the problem here.
I, with the exception of the naming, because actually I don't think it's like Alola Vulpix. It's still Vulpix. It's just it's Alola form.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Alola Vulpix. Like that's when you look at it in your Pokedex, it's not going to be Alola Vulpix.
Yeah, no, I don't know what they're actually calling it. The stories that I actually read up on it were going to be like it's going to be Vulpix Alola variant or something like that.
Yeah, Alola form. Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, that's fine. You want to call it that? I'm all for basically saying that this is a brand spanking new variation on Sandshrew, and calling it something else in that regard, not Alola variation.
Well, I mean, why would you call a tiger from one country not a tiger from when it's a tiger in another country? Like you have like an actual tiger and you have like a Siberian tiger. They're both tigers. Why would you change the species of it?
Because you're vindictive.
That's kind of where I see it. Apart from
I do like the fact that some of these are actually having variations of the fact that they're new typing. I like that. I like an ice-based Vulpix, an ice-type Ninetales, and I think the Sandshrew and the Sandslash are all ice types. Executor, I think
actually ice types. I know. I mean, the design almost looks like they'd be ice types, but do we know that they're actually ice types?
Yeah, because the stories that I was able to find on YouTube said that they were ice types.
Did you guys actually watch like the 3-minute trailer?
Nope.
I watched the trailer analysis, and it was more like I was forced by my wife to watch it.
Just watch the actual. Why don't you? Anyways, your sources, Adam.
We're gonna punch your sources again.
Okay.
Well, then you're punching your sister, so I hope you feel good about that.
Quick thing before you go any further with this.
Yeah.
The Alola forms, Sandshrew and Sandslash are both Ice Steel.
Okay.
Vulpix is Ice type. Ninetales is Ice Fairy, and Executor is Grass Dragon.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, because that was the one that I was more shocked by because Executor is Grass Psychic, but this new variation will be Grass Dragon.
I just feel sorry for like the Executors that used to play Ring Toss in that region. I mean,
yeah, very much. So the next thing that we actually need to get into is the introduction of Z moves.
Z-moves.
Oh.
And I'll admit, after reading into this and watching into this, I still don't think I understand what a Z move is.
Adam, just watch the trailer.
Well, from what I'm reading on here, it basically just looks like a mixture between Mega Evolutions and Limit Breaks from Final Fantasy is kind of what it looks like. Again, could be wrong.
Okay, so the Z moves, because seeing as I'm the only one that watched the actual trailer, Z moves are a one-time move that you can use that are type-specific. So you as a trainer can equip a grass type Z move, and when you have a grass Pokemon out that has the Z move, they can activate it one time in battle, or I think it's
Yeah.
like a Mega Evolution, but except that it's an attack that's based on typing. So if you have like a grass Z move, and you have a Charizard out, you can't use that Z move.
Yes.
Okay.
So it is a limit break.
Yes.
All in favor of Aldo DMing this particular news session, say aye.
I
What session? No, seriously, he cut out. So it's like, what session?
This particular news session, because
Oh, okay,
clearly
all
Aldo
right.
knows what he's talking about.
Oh,
It was
okay,
a reference to that thing we did.
Well, actually, no,
Yeah.
we can't do that because
And it was a callback.
Chat is already mad at Aldo because apparently he wants to punch his sister, and no, I was saying that was Alex that was going to punch his sister because that's the source that he'd be punching. So there you go. So yeah, Z moves. The way that you're kind of describing it to me also kind of sounds like Chrono Cross with the summons in that one, where you had to meet specific characteristics on the battlefield before you could summon that particular summon of that particular element.
Okay.
So interesting. Does that mean Mega Evolutions are out the window?
No.
No, I wouldn't think so.
No, now you have a thing for each wrist to wear.
Okay.
You have
So
a Mega Stone on one arm and your Z move on the other.
yep.
just hope they don't come up with a third one, because then they'll have to.
Only
just-
the boys can wear that one.
No, I was thinking a headband, Aldo. I was thinking a headband, but it's like the
And
robot
Aldo
chick.
perpetuates the sexist rumors even further.
Well, it's like that robot chicken sketch where the Green Lantern loses his hands and he basically has to wear a ring somewhere else.
All right.
Anyways.
The next feature that we were asked to talk about is Poke Ride, which I guess has gotten a lot of mischaracterization on the internet, saying that it's going to basically eliminate HMs, and the stuff that I've read has said no, it's not technically. It's just becoming a new way to do that.
Well, here's the thing. Nobody knows because this was actually the most vague part in their entire trailer, was that they showed Pokemon rides. They showed you riding on a Charizard. They showed you riding, I think it was a Lapras. I don't remember.
Yes.
No, it was a Sharpedo. It was a Sharpedo. And then riding on the new horse, Mudsdale. But they haven't revealed if it's like a area specific thing, like the Rhyhorn riding, or if it was, or if it will replace HMs. Like they haven't said specifically what that is. They just said, you remember those 5 minutes of Rhyhorn riding you really liked? We're giving you more.
The other thing too that is at least had me interested is that they talked about with this Poke Ride creating unique Pokemon for that would only be utilized for the Poke Ride. So it's not like you could catch these things and use them to battle with. You would be utilizing them in the world to fly or to surf on.
I don't think
I hope not, because then that's just basically substitution HM. And
Yeah.
when people are saying we don't want more HMs in the game, they don't mean replace it with something else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
From looking at the description, it just looks like it might be just more akin to kind of like a Pokemon taxi service almost, where it's like I wouldn't be surprised if someone at Game Freak thought, hey, this Uber thing is popular in the US, let's see if we have a Pokemon version of that, where, hey, you wait at a certain spot and the Pokemon gives you a ride, takes you where you need to go.
Yeah.
And you may or may not get mugged.
That's kind of what I've taken out of it, is like you would be able to just do these rides and it would be exactly like you're saying, like a taxi service within the islands, which would make sense. I mean, we're dealing with 4 islands here. So although you had a thought in there that got interrupted by Romney.
No.
Okay. All right. Well,
I made
there you go. Screw thoughts. That's what happens. And those are pretty much the major features that listeners wanted us to talk about. There were a bunch of others announced. We got more details on the Battle Royal system, although nothing that made me confident. I'm still not
exploding
hearing...
collars.
What was that?
No exploding collars. Get it? Because Battle Royale.
Mhm.
Well, I thought the same thing.
The one question that I wanted answered from E3 that I don't think has been answered since is that whether or not your feature would just be one against three others, or if you could actually do team up features kind of thing.
I don't think it's built-in team-up features. It's more or less like me and Romney talking to each other and be like, yeah, we're going to slam Alex.
It's looking more and more like that. So we did get some new features with the Battle Royale. We have global link features that are now going to be implemented into Sun and Moon. The QR scanner for the 3DS, I believe, is going to be utilized for this. And also we have the Rotom Pokedex, which I guess is just basically a living Pokedex, or more of a robotic one.
Oh, be careful, because a living Pokedex is already a real thing.
Well, yes. My wife is a living Pokedex.
No, it's a living Pokedex is when you have all 700 plus Pokemon in their actual forms in your boxes.
And we actually have a question for Aldo. Powerpuff Girls is ending soon. Your thoughts, Aldo?
That was fast. Like, is it ending or is it the season? Because there's a difference.
It says Powerpuff Girls is ending soon.
TG5455, don't keep me in the suspense.
Okay, all right.
Looking at the details here, apparently it's a Pokedex that's inhabited by a Pokemon that is an electric ghost type that possesses appliances. So it is a living Pokedex more insofar that it's a machine possessed by a ghost.
Would you say it's a ghost in the machine? It's a ghost in the shell?
Thank you, Aldo. Damn it, I was going to go for it. Or could you dare say it's a ghost in a shell?
Yeah, thing is there is an actual movie called Ghost in the Machine. It's actually kind of a scary thriller about a serial killer who is executed and basically terrorizes everyone in cyberspace. I saw it once as a kid. Gave me nightmares.
I don't know what I just came back into.
I think became the basis of an X-Files episode.
And a Tron sequel. Like in Tron 2.0, that's kind of the idea as well.
So, let's go ahead and move on, because I really don't think we can add too much to this story.
Ghost in the shell!
Well,
It's
before
a ghost
we do move
in
on,
a shell.
So, how long before Rupert Sanders ruins it?
Well, there goes our Prozac budget, people. We're just destroyed. Moving on. I love the fact that the chat has basically perpetuated this whole what would happen if this show was in the 80s, and now we're in the 60s, and that's where this whole Powerpuff thing got brought up. We also have Shadow Blazer. There's a new Scooby-Doo airing on Cartoon Network. It's called What's New Scooby-Doo.
Oh,
I remember seeing that. That was horrible. But then again, I'm not a Scooby-Doo fan.
What's New Scooby-Doo? Was that actually on Cartoon Network? I remember that being
on
WB.
It started on Warner Brothers.
It was on both. I remember with What's New Scooby-Doo, they did the whole, you don't know the answer to the mystery until the following week because they tried saying it was unsolved even though it wasn't. Because the first times they did it, it was okay and interesting, but then after a while it's just like, okay, we're just going to slap it to be continued and call it good.
I just remember What's New Scooby-Doo is basically Scooby-Doo but trying to be more edgy. That's really what I got out of it. But again, people, I'm not a Scooby-Doo fan, so please don't send your hatred to me. It's not going to work.
I think you're thinking of the more recent Scooby-Doo incarnation with the whole edgy. Because I remember What's New Scooby-Doo. It just was like traditional Scooby-Doo, only updated.
I'm saying this was my take on it, where I thought Scooby-Doo was fairly tame because it came out in the 60s and 70s. What's New Scooby-Doo was basically Scooby-Doo, but more edgy.
Well, still better than Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue, by far.
Yeah, so, all right, so that pretty much wraps up our tech portion, and I'm happy to say that we don't have too many depressing things to talk about in the entertainment portion, although we have a couple of stories that are
depending on who you ask.
Reactions.
That's the real thing. It depends on who you ask.
Yeah, that's the thing. So the first story that we actually have tonight regarding entertainment was brought up by a listener, and also, was it Alex that brought this one up? I don't think it was. Yeah. I think it was somebody else. It was you. No, it was you. So, we're going to get another anime to TV adaptation for Sword Art Online.
Yeah. Let me make one thing clear to kind of illustrate it. It's a anime to U.S. live-action TV adaptation.
Is it U.S.? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a U.S. studio that's going to be making it.
Yes. I'm gonna defer it to Alex because he's the resident Sword Art Online hater. According
you mean
to the
he's the person that read the article?
No.
I am a person who read the article.
There was a listener that brought up an article and brought it up because, quote, Alex hates Sword Art Online.
Well, that much is true.
So I'm going to go ahead and let you go first, Alex. Your thoughts on Sword Art Online getting a live-action series?
Well, first of all, this is incredibly stupid, because Sword Art Online was, I'm sorry, people, it's not a good show. It just really isn't. It just isn't, and I don't... And basically, this is another case of, oh, this is popular, let's jump on this bandwagon because it's popular, because we don't have any originality anymore. And, I mean, I don't want to say it can't entirely work. It can work if you completely throw out the original story and rewrite it to make it actually better.
I would think we'd be technically looking at that anyway with this series. Like, they would probably try to be making themselves different.
Probably so.
Probably, but...
I mean, you'll probably get the basis of Kirito and Asuna and the as far as characters go. You'll probably have them renamed, probably more Americanized. I don't know what they would honestly do with it.
I'm looking at this. I'm getting very much of this is probably going to end up going the way of Legend of the Seeker, where it'll be very low budget fantasy costumes with the veneer of it being a online game.
I just hope that all they do is stay in Ironclad. That's all I need.
Well, they probably will. Probably because they won't get far beyond that. That's just my prediction.
I gotta admit, I haven't seen the entire series of Sword Art Online. That's actually one of the things that gets brought up with me and Alex's playthroughs, is that apparently I need to go watch it so that I can give a legit opinion. But the reason I don't like it is just because I eventually got bored with the premise of it. It just didn't keep me connected with the story there. If they did a brand new story that reworked story, like if they were repeating things episode by episode, I'd be annoyed with it and I wouldn't be interested. But if they actually did try to do a unique take, I might be okay with it. I still remember way back, like early 2000s, there was talk about sci-fi trying to do their own adaptation of Witch Hunter Robin. And I liked the stuff that I was hearing about that, and was basically going to be retelling the story in a different way, kind of like the 2003 Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, where there are variations between the two. And I remember liking that, but that never got off the ground. Whereas this one, I think it's official, it's off the ground, it's going to happen.
Sort of. What we know so far is that it has a writer and it has producers. The company producing it is Skydance Television. They've acquired the global, worldwide live-action television rights. The script is being penned by Leta Kalongridis, whose credits include Avatar and Terminator Genesis, and the executive producers include David Ellison, Dana Goldberg, and Marcy Ross. And basically, it also says that Kalongridis pen drafts for the live-action Battle Angel Alita that James Cameron was working on, and the upcoming Ghost in the Shell. So it's very much someone who's been trying to basically write scripts for live-action based projects on anime. So take that for what it's worth.
And to be fair, Skydance Television is I guess it's a sub-company of Skydance in Media, which helped with like Jack Reacher, Star Trek Beyond, Terminator Genesis, Rogue Nation, and several others. They have a pretty decent track record, but I don't know what their full involvement was.
All of the Mission Impossible movies?
No, I don't know.
Maybe, okay. That's I know Rogue Nation is in there, but I could have sworn that Skydance was also involved with the first.
Ghost Protocol.
Ghost Protocol, okay.
Into Darkness. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, point being,
and
it's
contrary
very much
to the internet, I like Into Darkness, so...
Yeah, I'm just worried because, well, I mean, for one, I can see the concept translating to a Western audience pretty well because, well, it's a fairly simple concept. You're trapped in a video game. If you get a game over, you die in real life. We've seen this done in, like, 3 different series. I mean, Dot Hack. There's even books like Heir Apparent that have done the concept. And so a story like that can translate pretty well. It's when you try getting into some of the more iconic aspects of Sword Art Online that you may run into some problems, as well as how certain things will translate from the stories to a global television audience because of variances in cultures. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that Sword Art Online, when it was broadcast, aired in a really late time slot geared specifically towards otaku, which is not something I think Skydance is going to try to follow suit with here in the States or in the other regions of the world that choose to broadcast the show, if it ever gets picked up.
No, but again, one of the things that kind of supports my argument that it needs to be a brand spanking new series, it follows its own story arc kind of thing, is so that they can make the pitch to either cable networks or places like Netflix to be able to stream it or put it into not necessarily a primetime slot, but something close to a primetime slot. So at that point, repurposing it because that's another problem, is culturally it needs to be repurposed to fit with more American culture.
And honestly, I think Netflix would probably be the best place for it to go, because as ambitious as it is, I don't see any major network picking this up because it's going to be very expensive to produce. I mean, if you look at what happened to shows like Too Human, which was J.J. Abrams' big television show with Carl Urban, and, well, it got the plug pulled before the season even ended because it was so expensive to produce and not enough people were watching it. And so I can see maybe Sci-Fi picking it up, maybe some of the other cable networks, but
Syfy,
I think...
Yeah, Syfy will do it. Yeah,
Syfy or some of the other well-known cable networks, but I don't see this getting on a network. It's probably going to go Netflix or cable.
I was spitballing when I said network stuff, because in all actuality, it would hit cable or it would hit Netflix or Amazon.
Yeah,
one of them.
I mean, unless the CW is feeling particularly ballsy after the success of the DC shows.
I don't know if they are, because they're already having to do a lot of negotiating just to bring Supergirl to the CW and trying to make that work. I don't know if they necessarily have that much power at this point.
Yeah, point being, out of all the networks, the CW at least it would seem like a decent fit, because they seem to be doing really well with this sort of genre entertainment. But that would pretty much be the only major network, not cable network, that would actually pick it up, because it's within their wheelhouse.
One of the things I will actually say that has happened because of the story, that is almost a miracle, is the chat has already brought up that the Shadow Blazer should do a review of the live-action Sword Art Online.
If by miracle this would actually happen.
And he's agreed.
Well,
You've just heard what nobody could get done on .hack. Nobody could get him to do it.
Well, point being, all we know is that it's being written, and it's probably going to be pitched to different networks. We don't even know if it's going to be making it to pilot yet. And even if it does make it to pilot, it's not a guarantee it could go very far, because even Netflix could look at it and say, hey, we don't want to bankroll this because it's...
I mean, yeah, because right now I think they're fairly stable. Their Marvel series are doing well. Voltron, I know, had a good enough reception that it's getting a season 2. I'm not sure about Origin. I think Origins of the New Black is finished, but House of Cards is still running.
Well, yeah, and then they've got new shows like Stranger Things that have been getting fairly popular.
But their anime block of that, the Netflix original animes, aren't that big on that agenda. And so I know a lot of the spending goes towards things like Marvel. So at that point, if Netflix was going to do it, then it would be under their kind of budget constraints. I'm actually wondering if this would be kind of a good competitor for Amazon to try and rope up and put as an original series on their stuff. But that's me.
Honestly, given that nobody really uses the video services on Amazon so much so that whenever you try to order anything through Amazon Prime, it's like, did you know you can do video stuff? Please use our service. People don't realize it exists. Please use it.
I feel like if you put it on Amazon, you're putting it there to die.
Well,
yeah.
I was bringing that up because I don't know, does Hulu do original series anymore?
Yeah, they still do. They still do.
Okay, so maybe Hulu could do it?
No, because I don't want to pay for a service where I still get ads.
I know.
Or only 6 episodes.
I know. I'm sorry. I suggested that.
Point being, this idea's got a lot working against it. I mean, unless they manage to convince the right people and the pilot is phenomenal, then it's probably not going to go very far.
No. It has to go to the right people. It has to be the right pitch. And even then, it could still fail. So, with that being said, final thoughts before we move on into the next story we have tonight.
I don't know
I'm
what will
excited.
piss me off more, this getting made or the fact that it got made and Noir didn't get made.
Yeah, honestly, there's been a
Honest,
lot of Japanese properties people have been trying to make into American TV shows for years, and really, this is just history repeating itself. It's someone trying to crack that magical formula of how can we make an anime-based property that doesn't piss everybody off?
The sci-fi adaptation that was being pitched for Witch Hunter Robin was probably the closest thing that I would ever watch that was close to X-Files, because I did like Robin the anime, but I'm not. People keep sending it to me too that X-Files is up on Netflix. I'm not interested. I'm not gonna go watch it. It's just not my thing. So let's go ahead and move on into the next story, which, man, it's almost like I'm old or something because I've seen this story before, and
I
it's
remember
never
this.
yielded fruit. So with that, ABC, given that, well, Disney owns Star Wars, are considering a possible live-action series of Star Wars.
I'm sorry, did we just go back 11 years into the past? Because I'm having deja vu right now.
Or alternately, didn't we just go back, like 2 or 3 years in the past where we covered a similar story like this?
According to the chat, the show is based in the 60s or the 80s, so yes, we've gone back in time, people. We've gone back in time. Well, except for the old fart on the podcast, he hasn't gone anywhere, because he's just a dinosaur. That's the way it goes. So at that point, yeah, I've heard this being floated by who knows how many networks and who knows how many times. I think Sci-Fi had an attempt to do a live-action Star Wars series.
Yeah.
I know ABC has had at least one before this.
Yeah, Lucas has tried. Back when he was in control, he tried numerous times to create a TV series. In fact, that was the whole thing behind Star Wars 1313, is that it was supposed to tie in to the new TV series that was supposed to get off the ground before both 1313 and the TV series idea got the plug pulled.
Yeah, and so this isn't the first time I've heard anything like that, and I think the only fruitful thing that's ever come out of it is that we've gotten animated Star Wars series that have done fairly well. I mean, all of the announcements for Rebels Season 3 have me excited. And, I love Rebels. I liked Clone Wars. I love the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars. So we've had that kind of thing happen, but it always ends up in some kind of development hell. It really does. And I don't know if it's necessarily because they're coming up with crappy stories. I've only gotten my hands on maybe a few of the pitch scripts that were worked on. They didn't seem horrible. They needed work, but they weren't horrible.
Yeah, and the biggest problem with the Star Wars TV series that I've noticed with a lot of these pitches is that, well, they'd be really effing expensive to produce because, well, there's a lot of things that people love about Star Wars that they would want to see in the TV shows. So stuff like the lightsaber fights, space battles, and basically this, that, and the other. And, well, that costs a lot of money to make look good.
Well, I mean, here's the bottom line of it, and I've just kind of come to this conclusion after hearing this pitch who knows how many times. If you're going to do it, I don't know if you can do it with Jedi. I really don't know if you can.
Well, if you're going to, you'd have to do it animated. I mean, that's pretty much the only way to do it, to have like a lot of that spectacles, that if you're going to have to do a lot of computer-generated effects, just have the whole thing be CG and save yourself a lot of the headache of trying to work in live-action assets.
No, what I'm saying is that if it's going to be a live-action series, I don't know if you want a Jedi in there, because then you're very fixed in your storylines. It's one of the things I like about the first season of Rebels is that you had Jedi characters, but they were more acting like mercenaries. So at that point, you could explore the Star Wars universe without having to wield a lightsaber. And yes, technically you're right, Romney, it would be a lot easier just to animate random blaster blasts than it would be for a lightsaber.
You could do more stories with Jedi. Specifically, you could do Jedis that survived Order 66 and are in hiding, or people that have abandoned it. I don't know why you would think that you lock yourself into certain holes when you pick a Jedi to protagonist.
I'm sorry, Romney?
Well, with the whole Jedi protagonist thing, I think kind of more the idea is that you get locked into storylines involving exploring the Force, temptations of the dark side, so on and so forth. Those are the kind of storylines a lot of Jedi characters tend to get pigeonholed into. Now, there has been some extended universe stuff that did some very creative things with the idea of Jedi surviving Order 66. There was one, I didn't get the chance to read it. I don't know if I could hunt it down now, but it was the idea that, oh, you had a Jedi that was hiding out in Coruscant, escaping Order 66, who basically was a private detective, who basically hid out as a private detective that people just hired because, well, the Empire controlled everything else, and he was a lot like Liam Neeson's character in A Walk Among the Tombstone. And so something like that could work if you basically keep a lot of the action limited, keep it a lot more cerebral, but you don't know if that's going to win over audiences who don't expect that in their Star Wars stories.
I would tend to agree with that concept. Like if it was a mystery of the day kind of show, and it was a Jedi who was solving these mysteries, I don't know if I'd hate that.
Yeah, but the problem is you have
the lines that we have to follow the storyline that most Jedi storylines go into, which is bringing balance to the Force kind of thing. I would more be interested in kind of the Kanan approach to it from Rebels, where he's not really interested in the Force. He was just interested in helping those he could help.
Yeah, at the same time, though, with the whole Jedi detective thing, in my mind, I'm just thinking you basically would end up with something that would more or less just be Blade Runner, but with a Star Wars skin pasted over it, because that's more or less what you would kind of end up with. You'd have basically a Jedi version of Rick Deckard.
Yeah. Alex and Aldo, do you have any thoughts on a live-action Star Wars series?
Yeah, well, I, for one, would love it if it could happen. I mean, but Romney's absolutely right. It'd probably just be way too expensive to really attempt for network television. Even cables or Netflix would probably be pushing it, unless you can find a way to do it in a somewhat small enough scale that's still interesting. But I can't really get behind the whole, Jedi detective mystery, not just because it's a slightly Star Wars-y take on Blade Runner, but just also because every other TV show is already a crime drama anyway. And if I'm going to watch a Star Wars TV show, I want to see something a little different. So, it's tough. I mean, I would love to see it, but you're probably right. It's probably not going to happen in terms of a TV show.
Well, I mean, the biggest question that comes to my mind is, I mean, obviously, what do you do with it? I have a feeling that what's being pitched right now is that it would be based in all of the stuff they're working on with the films. So it would either be prequel to lead into things like Rogue One, or it would be to kind of further the universe without having Rey and Finn in it, kind of thing. Another idea that I actually wouldn't mind if they did, and I don't know how you do it, but setting the series in the Old Republic might be interesting.
Just let the Old Republic die. Disney did. Disney did.
Yeah,
Wow.
and really honestly speaking, what's there to really tell about the Old Republic? Because, well, we already know what it's going to lead to. There's not really enough. I mean, we already have enough filling in those gaps, and really that's just a part of the Star Wars timeline that most people just aren't interested in.
And to be frank, the Old Republic was really just a time period that was made so people could write fan fiction.
Well, perhaps.
Pretend I didn't hear that.
Perhaps as an anthology series, even the show could work. Maybe you have a season that focuses on smugglers and another on, I don't know, Republican guards or Jedi or whatever. I'm just throwing out ideas here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've had ideas I would pitch to Lucasfilm and Disney as a mini-series maybe that would work for the anthology thing. Problem is, the pitch I have, we'd be here all night if I were to go through the full thing, but the anthology idea might actually work a little bit if they go kind of what they do with American Horror Story, where it's just a brand new story with a brand new cast of characters each season.
Yeah,
I think interesting.
There's been a lot of talk about after the current anthology, quote unquote, trilogy. There's talk that they want to do a Obi-Wan anthology trilogy of movies.
Yeah, I'd heard that.
So I think maybe if they take it to Netflix or they take it to like a cable network, I think that could work there, assuming that you had a high enough budget for Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, but keep in mind, this is
not Netflix either, because I mean, Clone Wars is still up there, so
keep in mind, this is ABC specific negotiating because they obviously want to replicate what they have with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the Star Wars franchise, because they figured, hey, well, we've got all this, let's see if we can rake in some more money this way.
When you say it that way, anytime that your basis is replicate Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think you should just shoot it in the foot now instead of later.
Wait, are you trying to say that you don't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Aldo?
No. 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 It's
Why?
bad. It
I'm
was
actually
bad.
curious why.
It was the we'll get into this later. It's a lot. It's bad. It's just bad. It's terrible pacing. It's barely trying to keep up with everything else. The characters are uninteresting. And anyways, it's just.
I don't agree at all. I just barely finished season 3, and I actually think that it was a very good season. In fact, I think that the way that they told the story in season 3 was better than what X-Men Apocalypse tried to do with Apocalypse.
I just don't want to live in a world where Firefly has one season and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. keeps getting more.
Okay, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that.
There is some hope. At least Firefly's continuing in comic form, at least in some regard. So
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been in comic book form for 70 years. Anyways.
So, yeah, final thoughts before we move on into the next story. There really isn't a whole lot to add to it until we get an official announcement that there is a pilot, it is successful, and they're going to launch it. And for that, I will be hopeful. I would love to see a live-action Star Wars series. I just don't see it getting off the ground.
Yeah.
I think with what you have with the animated series, you're fine.
My biggest trepidation with it is that the one thing that the animated series excel in is being able to explore the universe without worrying about budget, location, and casting. Like they can just, if they want to go to Mustafar, they can go to Mustafar. If they want to go to somewhere else, they can go anywhere they want.
All right, here's my nightmarish prediction of the Star Wars TV series: the Jar Jar and Ewok Variety Hour. You're welcome.
I would watch that.
Return of Star Wars Holiday Special 2, Electric Boogaloo.
No, it would basically the Star Wars Hanukkah special. You get 8 episodes instead of just 1.
All right.
Sorry.
I'm not on board with any of that. Moving on. In fact, I'm going to quote TG in the chat. No. F Jar Jar. F him. I don't even want him to get the dignity that some fan theorist made, where he is the real Darth Sidious. He's the real Darth behind it all. He doesn't deserve that.
Because I hate all these Darth Plagueis rumors so much. I hope he's Snoke.
Oh man.
Anyways.
I have the baby sleeping in the other room, Aldo.
Enjoy the nightmares tonight, everyone.
Kylo, we have to kill Rey.
So it's like Kylo, we have to save the Ewoks.
Anyways.
Robot Chicken was enough, people. Beautiful. All right, so the next story that we have to talk about is a silly story that was presented by Alex, but also a listener did bring it to our attention as well, which was a park fountain out in New Orleans got a nice new addition to it with a giant metal statue of Pikachu. I've confirmed it. The rise of Pikaism has begun. Because I love the fact that this story actually quoted it as coming out of nowhere, at least according to the police officers, because they're wondering how people got a statue that heavy onto that fountain.
So does that mean someone just needs to come out with the music with a song called "Thus Spake Pikathustra"?
By the way, it's not iron, it's fiberglass.
Yeah, it's fiberglass. But apparently, according to New Orleans authorities, it's quite heavy. I don't know how it's quite heavy if it's fiberglass, but if it's thick enough, maybe. But
well, it looks quite heavy.
Yeah.
Read the article, Adam.
I am reading the article.
Anyways, it looks good. I like that it's angry Pikachu.
Yeah, I was actually a little curious about that. Why they went with an angry version?
I guess they were trying to go for more like the typical statue dignified pose instead of having it just be happy. It's just like, I'm a dignified Pikachu.
I think it's the pose from Pokken.
Yeah, or alternately, Or alternately, they initially tried making Detective Pikachu, but they lost the hat and just had to make do.
Did somebody say Detective Pikachu?
Christ.
For the record, Aldo, I wasn't gonna bring the voice because I was gonna bring up Detective Pikachu, but since Ramdo Fett opened up the door. So, yeah, in an act of guerrilla art, a statue of the iconic electric-type Pokemon Pikachu was installed overnight in the Coliseum Square Park in New Orleans. It doesn't. Now, here's the thing. I know that a couple of people have come out and said, no, this is not a good idea, but the authorities aren't necessarily feeling that. In fact, it seems to have upped tourism because people are obviously taking pictures of it and all of that fun stuff. So, at that point, like, do I see this thing getting removed anytime soon? Absolutely not.
Well, it says here, like, the New Orleans Police Department has said that it has no plans to remove the statue at this time, despite having no idea where it came from.
Yes.
Beautiful.
That's why I'm saying the rise of Pikaism has begun, because it came out of nowhere.
The real question is it a Pokestop?
Probably not, or at least not yet.
Not yet.
Give Niantic time, they'll probably put it in.
Yeah, I could honestly see them doing
put it in when they put the footsteps back in.
Yeah, unless the person who did the guerrilla art put it on top of a pre-existing Pokestop. Because it's mentioned that they put this on top of an unused fountain. So, given that Niantic also programmed Ingress, maybe the place could have been a site for Ingress that they put into Pokemon Go.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be like the Pokemon. It wouldn't be the Pika statue. It would be the fountain.
Yeah, it would be the fountain. It's just that they maybe figured, okay, this place just happens to be a Pokestop, so let's put a Pikachu here. And then
so really quick, this is the statue in question. So for people who want to see it, it's a big fiberglass statue of Pikachu, and yeah, it looks like it may be the Pokken stance. I would also say like whenever Pikachu is annoyed at Ash look.
Unless you're listening to us via podcast, let me describe to you a 10-foot tall Pikachu with his arms crossed, looking at the sky.
I was gonna say that Big Brother is always watching you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't really so much call it looking, more like just scowling at the sky would probably be a better way to describe it. Just to make it vivid that it's not the happy Pikachu face, it's the closed eyes, closed lips, trying to be dignified but looking very angry because they had to sit and pose for a long time.
And frankly, I really do think this isn't going to get removed anytime soon. I think it's way too much, especially with Pokemon Go's popularity, which, can I just point out really quick, we're still getting listener suggestions of dumb Pokemon Go stories, okay? This ain't going away anytime soon.
Well, I mean, the only way I could see it maybe getting taken down is if maybe a bunch of religious fundamentalists who oppose Pokemon decide to take it upon themselves to tear it down, which I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, but I could also see the city of New Orleans tourism board basically saying, if you take this away, then we're going to lose economy out of it. And if they actually do get economy out of it, they've got an argument. So
yeah,
that's the issue.
That's the thing. It hasn't stopped religious fundamentalists before.
No. But then again, I mean, one of the other stories that got brought to my attention was apparently a business owner, I think it was out in Nebraska or something, is actually trying to get a class action lawsuit going against Niantic for trespassing violations because of Pokemon Go. And he's actually got a few small business owners behind him. So it's just like, this is why we're not talking
your
about
business.
People. That and another one was never mind. I'm not going into the iceberg that is all of the Pokemon Go stupid stories that we've gotten. There are so many, and they're such examples of human stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
that's why we can't have nice things.
Well, I was actually gonna say apparently everybody's just trying to incorporate it because now World Wrestling Entertainment has storylines that are utilizing it. I guess UFC is going to have a whole event or their next event is going to have Pokemon Go inspired stuff to it. So yeah, that's going to be a thing, people. Pokemon Go's here to stay.
At least until something else comes along.
And yes, I'm going to be the vile hater because I still don't have it.
Adam, it's free.
Yeah, but it is
have time.
It's a time sink. It really is. I mean, The reason I stopped playing is because I don't have time to play it, and my phone just can't run it without turning into a giant brick of hot fire.
Although I don't hate it.
How
I have
how
no
is it a
pride.
time sink? I play it at work.
Yeah, that's the thing,
Right.
Aldo. Yeah, that's the thing, Aldo. I can't, because the company I work for has a strict no cell phones on the floor in the cubicle policy, and it's just my phone just can't run the thing, because it's not a very powerful phone.
Sounds like you should just go find a company that likes fun.
Good luck.
Good luck with that.
Well, then I'd still be screwed. But again, I'm not. I even said it when Pokemon Go got announced. It's not something that I'm legitimately interested in doing. I have no problem just sticking to the Pokemon gens. So at that point,
You don't even play the gens. Come on.
no, F you on that one, Alex. I play the gens.
Yeah, when
I
it comes
played
time to let's play the games.
What was
So are
that?
you running out to buy Sun and Moon? I don't think so.
No, because I'm too busy trying to work my way into the other ones.
And how's that going
sounds
for
like-
you?
Okay, I
Sounds like
care about this
excuses to not
fundamental
play Pokemon.
Alex story. And I actually want to see if the other gens have something called story in them.
They
They
don't.
have story. They've all had story.
Well,
Well,
perhaps
perhaps-
story.
It's just the thing is, story is not the main focus. Like, it really isn't. I mean, they tried a little bit in black and white, but let's face it, for the most part, it is about capturing
No,
a bunch of...
I'm sorry, Adam. Do you
They're
want a
overly
Pokemon
simplistic
trainer
stories.
having to go find the 4 crystals for the umpteenth time in an unrelated sequel?
I don't have a problem with that plot. Better plot than all of the post-apocalyptic crap I have to deal with on TV.
Fine, do you want a post-apocalyptic Pokemon game? I guess I
Oh,
kind of got that
so
because of
bad.
Coliseum, but at least that was better, and that was before the whole post-apocalyptic saturation we have now. So,
Go play that, Adam.
Senpai alone! No, the reason I want to play the other ones is because 3 actually does... I'll agree. The gens have a simplistic story, but 3 actually has more of a compelling one. So at that point, I want to see if 4 and 5 actually did that, and 6 I think has.
Wait, have you not played those?
I've played a
Oh,
little bit
yeah.
of 4, not 5.
Oh man, 6?
I've dabbled in 6.
Oh. Dabble isn't playing.
Well, that's the most.
Dabble's
I
like
don't
eating
own it
3 French
myself.
fries.
I had to go play it off of his and my wife's copies.
Dabbling is like eating 4 French fries and going like, yeah, I had burgers before.
Story of my life. Story of my life.
Okay, then I guess apparently I'm not a Pokemon fan.
Well,
you're just a poser.
yeah, the thing is, you're not alone, because honestly, the 2 times I've ever played the Pokemon games, I've never actually bought them. They've always been gifts, just out of sheer happenstance. The first one, I don't buy them. People just keep giving them to me, and I'm just like, okay, I'll play them, I guess, because I don't want to turn it down. But it's just literally people keep giving them to me when I never ask for it, and I'm just like,
But for the record, I don't hate Pokemon. Why would I hate
It
Pokemon?
sounds like you hate Pokemon.
I,
Adam, why are
I'm
you
about to
paying
punch your sources, sir. I don't hate it. Why would I hate a game series that basically has pretty much indoctrinated the last couple of generations of kids into playing JRPGs? Why would I hate that?
because it's secretly Shinra?
Well, I'm not entirely against Shinra. Just please don't give us the Advent Children versions of Reno and Rude, and I'm fine.
Well, I think it all started when
I'm sorry,
Pikachu backed up into your car while sitting in a drive-through window.
I'm sorry, Adam. Do you want a root that's 5 pixels wide?
I want a Rude with a personality.
I'm sorry, then you should not be playing anything from Final Fantasy.
Well, technically,
Well,
Okay,
hold on,
so
let
we
me
branched
rephrase
into
that.
apparently I'm not a Final
You
Fantasy
should
fan
not,
either.
you should
All
not
right,
be
good
expecting that out of a side character in Final Fantasy.
enough. I expect a lot of things. This doesn't necessarily mean they happen. And no, I do not agree with you, TG, in the chat. We do not need zombie Pokemon. No.
Although I do want to see, based on some fan art I saw a while ago, I do want to see a ghost-type evolution as a mummy.
I don't hate Scooby-Doo! Well, okay, I actually kind of do hate Scooby-Doo, but I don't hate Pokemon!
well, don't we already have a ghost type Eevee though? Well, let's see.
No.
Psychic, dark, fire,
No.
water,
Fairy,
lightning.
electric. Oh, no ghost type EVs yet.
Not yet,
Nope.
anyway.
But I really do, because there's. I need to find it again, but there was this really cute, like, mock-up of potential evolution types, and one was a ghost, and it was a mummy.
I like the
It was so
fighting
cute.
type.
So
like fighting.
basically,
Really scruffy.
well, so
Anyway.
if it's an EV, a ghost EV that's a mummy, that just means that someone just accidentally ran their bike over the EV, and that's how it evolved to a ghost mummy Pokemon. You just didn't make it to the Pokemon Center in time, and it evolved.
I was
It
actually
was
going
that
to say
ghost
I don't want a ghost type Eevee because that means the Eevee's dead.
Hey,
And,
there is that
Eevee's one of
story
those
about
few
the kid who
incarnations in
controls
Pokemon where I'm like, oh, it's so cute.
Are you saying you don't want Phantom, a tiny tree that's made out of the soul of dead children?
No.
You would know that if you played Pokemon, Adam.
You would know all the Nightmare Fuel Pokemon.
Well, I guess
only
this means
played
that Aldo and Alex have been subjected to the Phantom Pain.
Oh.
I was playing that right before the podcast.
Well, not the Phantom Pain, but you make an excellent point because, well, spoiler alert, we are playing. Maybe I should stop saying right now because Adam might kill me.
Stop yourself. We'll announce that in a second. So at that point, okay, I guess there's a conclusion that has been reached. Drac hates Pokemon.
Yes,
So-
the statue is. But back on the news story, the
So-
statue's
so-
awesome. I hope it stays around for a very long time. What a great
No,
way.
I need to continue this because, well, Alex, I have some bad news for you. We can't play Pokemon anymore because apparently I hate it.
Well, that's okay. I'll play it then for the channel.
No, you play it for your channel.
I tried. Remember, I ran out of shit to talk about in like the second episode, so I just gave up.
Well, then I guess I don't hate Pokemon now, do I?
I mean, just because you hate something doesn't mean you can't play it, Adam.
We
How
played
else are you
Sonic
gonna-
06.
How else are you gonna love it if you don't play it?
Well, this is true.
You're just being a hater at this
Why,
point.
why does the chat want me to feel the pain? I don't understand. Why is that the way that this is going? First, Aldo has to bring up frickin' Jar Jar. No, it wasn't him that
That
brought up
was
Jar Jar.
me. That was me.
That was Romney that brought up frickin' Jar Jar, and then we bring up the fact that I apparently hate everything. And so, yeah, there you go.
You cannot be seduced by the light side of the force. Yes.
Chat, if you bring up one idea about a Jar Jar Pokemon, you and me, we're done. I'm telling you, we're done. I'm not even looking into further generations. I'm done.
Well, I'm sure there probably is a Pokemon that would count as the Jar Jar of the Pokemon universe. The only difference is, well, there's actually good writing for their version of Jar Jar.
No, there's no such thing as good
Kendra.
Jar Jar. No.
Sure there is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what, Alex? All right, so yeah, let's wrap up this story. I like the idea of it. We need a Jar Jar Pokemon to get to a big. TG, I'm starting to have a love-hate relationship with you.
Well,
Do not
technically,
need a dumbed in Pokemon.
Well, technically, wouldn't that basically just be a talking Lickitung?
Yes. Yes, it would.
I keep saying it's Sudowoodo. Nobody listens to me.
Sudowoodo
No, I
Jar
heard that.
Jar.
I don't know how you say that Jar Jar is Sudowoodo.
They're both silly looking and kind of dumb.
Okay, all right.
And you
that-
can't
Yeah,
hit
but
them. You can't hit
thing
them
is-
because they walk funny.
Yeah, thing is, at least Sudowoodo can serve an actual purpose.
Yeah, to block you.
That's
So,
a purpose.
Sudowoodo is Snorlax. That's what he is.
Gen 2 Snorlax.
What's this? No! No! I had to click on it. Yeah. So wrapping things up, I like the statue. I hope they keep it for months, maybe even a year. Not just because of freaking Pokemon Go. I kind of hope they keep it permanently. But that's me. Well, so I can blame the Shadow Blazer for having TG in the chat. Alex, chalk this up to the list.
Of everything else you blame me for.
Yes. Yes. I still love you, but yes. All right, so we actually do have a little bit more time, and I do have another story lined up, so let's go ahead and get into that. And so we're actually going to be bouncing right back into Star Wars.
Of course.
Well, yeah, because that's a lot of the stories right now. And this one has been being talked about for quite a while, is whether or not we would get cameos in Rogue One. And now a lot of people were hoping for, quote, the big cameos. They wanted to see... I don't know if they were actually expecting Luke to be in it, but I don't know if you could actually do that.
I was
Because
on
he
a
would be
lot of
a big-
CGI.
Well, also, why?
Yeah, why would you want to?
Stop,
But-
why?
But we have confirmed that Rogue One will have a cameo. It's just not necessarily a big one, although it's one I like. Jimmy Smits has announced that he will be reprising his role of Bail Organa for Rogue One. And I like this idea, because if there was one cameo that you could do, Bail makes sense. Especially
Christian?
since Bail is supposed to be establishing the rebellion at this point.
Christian Bale?
No, Bail Organa. That's the name of the
I know.
character.
I know,
What you
but
basically wanted me to say, Aldo, was, I am the knight!
that's not even Christian Bale anymore. What have you done to it?
Well,
Anyways,
think it.
I can't do full Christian Bale right now, baby.
I mean, you're not gonna call me baby, honey.
But baby.
Uh,
Oh, the way, how's your sex life?
Anyways,
So at that
Bale
point,
Organa.
I like the idea of bringing Bail Organa in to further the story of Rogue One. It makes sense for him to be there. I don't know if I've seen people actually bounce that they wanted to have Darth Vader. They wanted to have.
Well, he makes a cameo.
You
Yeah,
need
he'll
Darth
make a
Vader.
cameo, but he's not like the official villain they're going to be dealing with, or a younger Grand Moff Tarkin. Oh, who are the other adult roles that they wanted?
Well,
A
the
younger
thing
Wedge
is-
Antilles.
well, keep in mind, the whole thing with Rogue One is them stealing the Death Star plan, so I'm not sure how young you'd be looking at for Grand Moff Tarkin. I mean, you'd basically be give or take like maybe
I don't know
10
if
years.
I don't know if you'd even be looking at Grand Moff Tarkin, because then at that point he would be off doing something else. I can see where they would bring him in for the Death Star's destruction or construction, not destruction. But until that point, I would think he would be handling other things for the Empire.
Yeah.
But Bail Organa makes sense because you have to establish the rebels, and you have to establish that they have legit backing behind them, and Bail Organa fits.
The thing I like about this most of all is it's actually going to make it feel like there's some real weight
Mhm.
to Alderaan being exploded into 1,000 pieces.
Yes.
Because that's one of those things that both Episode 4 and Episode 7 kind of failed in, was that, oh, look at all these planets blowing up. No, apart from the fact that it's a bunch of billion lives, why do we care? What sort of character investment
That's
do we
kind
have?
of
Well,
sad
to be
part of
fair,
this,
at least
there.
Episode 4 did it a little bit better than Episode 7, because at least Episode 4 you had Obi-Wan sensing and actually reacting to the deaths of the people on Alderaan. But with Episode 7 it is, oh, watch all this stuff blow up.
Well, no,
And
you
there's
had
Princess Leia, too.
Well, you had
Well,
people like actually watch the planets blow up. Like you did have that. I think they both equally failed in really having any sort of emotional attachment to these blowing up
Yeah.
planets.
That's kind of my argument with it too. I mean, like with the Episode 7 scene, Coruscant was one of them, wasn't it?
No, it's not.
Who knows?
Coruscant.
No,
It's not.
I think they targeted Coruscant.
Well,
It's no.
if they didn't say explicitly, it's just random civilized planet that's one of the homes of the New Republic, is pretty
It's-
much all they said.
It has, as far as I know, it has been confirmed by canon sources. It's not Coruscant, and apparently the Republic capital now shifts planets every so often.
Okay, so then at that point, I mean, I made the assumption that Coruscant was in there and therefore cared about that. But Aldo does have a point. It's difficult to care about those planets when you don't see the civilization that's on them, because at that point they're just planets. They're art assets as far as I'm concerned anyway. So I kind of agree with that. I think if we actually show weight to it, and Bale does show that. And I think it was Alex that brought up that Leia did watch Alderaan's destruction, and yeah, that's
Mhm.
supposed to be the importance that you got with it. I think that this just adds to it, because that now we can see that Alderaan actually was a pivotal part of the rebellion. So, what is this? We need Michael Bay to produce a Star Wars movie.
No.
No.
Yes. Yes. All the explosions in space.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, give him Robotech. I'm sure he can find something more worthwhile to do
No.
with that.
Just let him
No.
have his own. Let him have his own. Listen, hear me out. Just let him have his own spin-off movie about a bunch of rogue pilots. Yes. Will Smith. Yes.
Scrap the last night and we'll talk.
Will Smith. All or nothing, maybe.
No, not even Will Smith. Will Smith has lost a lot of faith with me over the last couple of years, and we aren't going to get into that review tonight. But that movie also did not help its cause.
Oh yeah, but then again, people have lost faith long before that movie. I mean, After Earth and Winter's Tale back to back had damaged what credibility he had.
Wild West was all I needed.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
literally, who in their right mind casts Will Smith to play the devil? I mean, what were they smoking? I mean, the audience, I was with the test audience that watched it. Everyone just busted out laughing because no one could take it seriously because it's the Fresh Prince of Darkness.
I'm just saying, Will Smith's acting ability woefully overrated.
Adam,
Anyway.
you say that about everybody.
No, I actually don't.
Wow, you've
Leo
said that about
DiCaprio, overrated. Will Smith, overrated. What have these guys done for me lately? Overrated.
Listen, I don't have enough time in the world to make a compilation of you saying actors are overrated.
They're not putting on the red and white spandex. Overrated.
Red and white spandex. What?
I don't know, but I can believe that.
I'll have you know, sir, I liked Anthony Mackie. And I continue to like Anthony Mackie. So shut your pie hole.
Yeah, honestly,
That's the perfect Shadow Blazer SAO overrated. So there you go. I appreciate that.
yeah, honestly, if it comes to the point where we see Will Smith in a Star Wars movie, that's how we know the franchise has gone on too long.
Well, basically what you're going to see is him punching something and going, "Welcome to Tatooine."
I need that. You keep saying these things like they're bad ideas, Adam.
Or,
Okay,
well,
apologies. Bad ideas
would,
to me.
I would want to see it if it meant that we saw Will Smith producing a rap that goes with the Star Wars movie, complete with the high-budget music video.
Oh
Hey,
my
we had
gosh,
a disco version of the Star Wars theme. Can we get
Oh.
a Will Smith rap version of the Star Wars theme?
all I need is the fresh Jedi from Tatooine. Yes. Yes.
Why can I see a Weird Al song coming out of what you've just proposed?
Probably because it has before.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying this would happen. Because if Will Smith gets cast and he's a Jedi, then that's exactly what Weird Al would do. Is he would try and find a way to spoof the Fresh Prince theme song, but then add in Jedi stuff to it.
This is a story all about how my Jedi life got turned upside down. Anyways, you're getting me started on a train I don't want to go on. And it's not an
so-
April bullet train, so let's
Final
get on
thoughts
this.
on Jimmy Smits and Rogue One. I'm excited. I'm
Sure,
happy
makes
to see
sense.
him come back. I like Jimmy Smits.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense because, well, he was a major force in the rebellion. That's why Alderaan was targeted. So,
You know, he sure was a major force for somebody who doesn't actually use the Force.
but see, that's one of the things. But see, that's one of the things I'll actually like about these Star Wars spin-off movies is that we can actually get away from the Jedi for a little bit and see the actual impact people who don't use the Force have.
I know,
Yeah.
but you made a Force pun and you didn't really cash it in, so I cashed in that check for you.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not that I didn't notice it. It's just that, well, I didn't care.
What has happened to this podcast tonight?
This is what happens when we have spare time.
Exactly.
So, Alex, what are your thoughts on Bail Organa coming back?
I'm good with it. I'm excited. I'm still excited for Rogue One.
I'd just like to say for the record, I didn't call Jimmy Smits overrated.
No, he didn't.
Yeah,
I like
he's
Jimmy
just-
Smits, so
Yeah.
therefore...
He said Will Smith is overrated, and a whole
Yes.
bunch of other actors. But no,
Not as
Jimmy
many as
Well,
you're
Stewart.
making
technically,
it out
well,
to be, my friend.
Well, to be fair, Alex, you only listed 2 people, Leo DiCaprio, Will Smith. 2 is not a lot, so...
He
Okay,
said
that's a
more
lot
than
from
that.
two.
I just.
Oh well. So yeah, I'm excited for Bail Organa. Aldo, did you give your thoughts on it?
No.
Yes. So your thoughts?
It's cool, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, I mean, man, I just want to see them like blow up stuff and the Death Star. It's honestly all I want.
I don't
And
know if
just-
you're gonna get that because this is gonna be a Death Star under construction.
I know, like that's what I'm saying is I want to see like the Death Star pre. I'm excited. So here's the thing. I don't care about anything. I just want to see like X-wings flying through like a still getting built Death Star.
All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap things up for the evening because we are out of time almost.
We're
But
out of
thankfully, what was that?
Nothing.
Just a curse on your soul.
Keep going.
I'm sorry, did I miss something? Or...
No, you
Okay.
missed absolutely nothing important.
Oh, okay, all right. Sorry, I got involved in the chat because apparently the podcast is nothing more than Pokemon SAO, Will Smith, and DC haters.
Yeah,
pretty
sounds
much.
about right.
Yeah, you caught us. You caught us.
I hate
Yep.
DC.
So
Yeah,
let's go ahead and
yeah.
wrap
Seriously,
things
I mean, screw direct current. I mean, alternating current is just so much better.
It's
Exactly.
the least of all the cities in the United States.
Yes. So let's go ahead. Jimmy Christmas. That's what happens here. I swear, Aldo has an effect on the podcast. Is that the silly just comes out of all of us, and that's just the way it goes.
We missed you, Aldo.
We really have. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. If people want to get a hold of us to give us their various opinions and tell us that we're haters of, well, insert franchise here. Aldo,
Franchise, company, person.
Aldo, how do they get a hold of you?
Yo, dogs, if you want to listen, bark at me. That was weird. Anyways,
Yeah?
if you want to get a hold of me, you can do it on Twitter at BoredThresh, BoredThresh, on Twitter. And you can also find me on boardoffline.net. You can also find me on reviewsversustheworld/podcast. And you can also, obviously, find me here on YouTube on this podcast, which is Geek News, Reviews, and Opinion, in case you forgot.
Because I don't say the branding enough. Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
Well, to be fair, it doesn't really sound like a brand. It sounds like an explanation of what we do.
Well, it's nice and simple and to the point.
Strangely enough,
It
when I
is.
came up with the idea, it was actually pitched to me as a brand, and I kind of stuck with it.
It's good. I'm not saying it's not good.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's good.
Alex, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, of course, main ways to contact me is to find me here on YouTube. ShadowBlazer3000 is my channel where I primarily do anime reviews, but I also do some game content on the side. I'm getting to work on one. I've written the script for it anyway. And, well, one thing, so you can find me on Twitter at AlexJShort is my handle. Also, I forgot to mention at the start of the show, I'm really excited because this week I did pick up Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, the play script, so can't wait to start reading it.
What?
Actually, so I have to admit, I actually saw Suicide Squad today for our review next week, and actually, when I went to go see it, I got to see like my first legit in the movie theater trailer for Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, I saw it too.
It's the first time I've been legit excited about that movie, and for good reasons. It's looking really good. So, Stephen Romney, how do people get a hold of you if they want to call you a Nintendo, a Pokemon, an SAO, or Will Smith, or a DC hater?
Well, you can always find me here on YouTube at youtube.com/StudioGhostUtah. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews, no apostrophe. And I am also on Twitter at RomneyReviews. And for this week's recommendation of Romney's Reading Club, if you're either someone who wants more Ghostbusters after seeing the new movie, or if you're someone who wants to wash the taste of the new Ghostbusters movie out of your mind, I highly recommend the new Ghostbusters from IDW. This is basically a part of the long-running Ghostbusters comic series that IDW has been doing for a while. Basic premise: Venkman, Egon, Winston, and Ray all get kidnapped by ghosts, meaning that a new crew of Ghostbusters, led by Janine Melnitz, has to take their place. I've been really enjoying this trade. It's actually been a really good read. And so, regardless of your opinions of the new movie, if you want more Ghostbusters, check out the comic series by IDW.
On the
Very
other
nice.
hand, even if you did enjoy the new Ghostbusters, like me, still read that series.
Actually, given the premise that Romney just gave, I want to pick it up. That sounds really cool, actually, for a story. So, if people want to get a hold of me, there are two great ways to be able to do it. Obviously, you can find me on YouTube because you're on my channel right now. Hi, welcome. You must be new here. If not, you're still welcome anyway. So you can go to youtube.com/drac2326 to contact me there and check out all of the other content that I provide. I do gaming reviews, Let's Plays, this podcast, obviously, and right now I'm actually making a push for 100 subscribers. I just barely hit 90, and I want to hit that wonderful milestone as quickly as I'm able to, and I'm working my butt off on it. I would ask that you guys continue to do the same. Continue to recommend this channel to your families, friends, fellow YouTubers, all that fun stuff. Yes, I cheaply plugged. I'm not ashamed of it. Moving on. If you want to get a hold of the show, there are 4 ways to be able to do it. The first 2 are social networking, and virtually provide the same thing, but I would actually say one of them is a little bit more in depth. First of all is Twitter, which is @GeekyNRO, and you can get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, the discussion topics we'll be talking about. We will also be reaching out to you guys to get your opinions on them, as well as continuing to advertise all the wonderful content that the panelists continue to provide on their own channels. You can also look us up on Geek, or look up Geek News Reviews and Opinions on Facebook and like it. And we'll actually be doing a little bit more in-depth stuff like polls and things like that on there, as well as the up-to-the-minute coverage and all of that on Facebook. Yu-Gi-Oh! Civil War. Don't distract me like that, people. So the other 2 ways are if you want to submit stories or you want to submit feedback, you can go to geekyweek@gmail.com and leave the stories there. If you want to be extra helpful, leave a second story so that I can do my research on it and be able to get as much information on the stories as I can. But that's up to you guys. At least one story that is going to give me something to work with would be awesome. I've actually had people give me a story that was a sentence long, and it was a video that didn't work. So that doesn't help. And then you could also go to our podcast RSS feed at geekyweek.podomatic.com. I know that the archive is a little out of date. We're working on some issues that I'm actually having with Podomatic, but we will get that archive up to date as quickly as we are able to. But you could also use that RSS feed to access us on iTunes. So that's another great thing that you can do with the podcast. And with that, that's going to go ahead and do it for this week. Oh, and the other thing I want to pimp really quick is all of the Gaming with the Geeks stuff that we've been doing all summer. So we got the full playlist done for Brinton's playthrough of Devil May Cry 3 with me. We're currently working on Rise of the Tomb Raider with Alex. And I'm happy to announce that next weekend, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but next weekend, our special playthrough with Romney will start up. And I have a feeling that Drac and Shadow fans, Romney fans, Drac fans, Shadow Blazer fans will also appreciate it. So you might want to check into it next weekend while I'm off on vacation taking a 7-day coma. But that's going to go ahead and do it for us this evening. I hope you guys can, or thank you guys so much for joining with us this wonderful evening and taking part in the content as well as taking part in the live chat and the weird discussions that have happened tonight. We continue to love and appreciate you guys' contributions. And of course, for me, for Aldo, for Romney, and for Alex, we'll see you guys next time for even more Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. And next week, the review of Suicide Squad.